one to know one, you know.
I suppose.
Besides, Aquarians like having novel friends.
This is true. This is very true. Okay, we've got, 15
About
people on now?
50 seconds. Pardon me?
Okay.
And Mike has stepped away, but he said he'd be back in 1 minute, so.
Great.
I'm back.
Okay, yeah. Steve's going to roll our little intro, Mike, in about 15 seconds now.
Okay.
So everyone's going to be muted, and you all will be free to speak when we start here. Thanks for joining us, everyone. AUN, American Underground Network.
The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetuate their own dependency relationship of childhood. Simply put, they want a human God to eliminate all risk from their life, pat them on the head, kiss their bruises, put a chicken on every dinner table, clothe their bodies, tuck them into bed at night, and tell them that everything will be all right when they wake up in the morning. This public demand is incredible, so the human God, the politician, meets incredibility with incredibility by promising the world and delivering nothing. So who is the bigger liar, the public or the Godfather?
All revolutions have been led by young people. If you just think of the TV images of whether it's Tiananmen Square or whether it's the revolts in Central America or Europe, it's the young people, it's the college people who are more principled and not locked in and they're not embedded with the government. They are the ones who are concerned about the future because the future is theirs.
My research has shown at this point that the future laid out for us may be just about impossible to change. I do not agree with the means by which the powerful few have chosen for us to reach the end. I do not agree that the end is where we should end at all. But unless we can wake the people from their sleep, nothing short of civil war will stop the planned outcome.
It's the National Collective Consciousness Conference Call with Ray Mills in Salisbury, North Carolina, Dee Dee Farrell in Portland, Oregon, Fred Smart in Evanston, Illinois, Steve Harris in Charlotte, North Carolina, and now, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, your host, Jim Condit, Jr.
Hello, Steve and Dee Dee and everybody else. Tonight we have a very important show, and it has to do with money. Now, if we say that if someone walks down the street and buys a ticket, they might win $30 million or $3 million in the lottery, then everybody perks up, even those of us who never buy lottery tickets. But if we talk about a subject that's infinitely more important, that is, how should a government issue money for the people, or how should money be issued in a nation, then it's like almost a cue for most people to go to sleep. But please don't go to sleep tonight, because we have a very important show. Co-hosting with Steve and Dee Dee and myself is Al Jordan, and he will say something in a second. And then our main guest is Mike Montagne, who has, since 1968, been working on a mathematically exact economy, or an economy that would be run by mathematically exact science. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, let me just say a few things before I have Al introduce himself. When I was in high school and college, especially in college, I remember once asking one of the professors, how does the Federal Reserve know how much money, this was the early 70s now, how does the Federal Reserve know how much money to put in circulation? And he looked at me like I had asked an illegal question and kind of got a little smile on his face and never answered. Then I heard that gold and silver should be the basis of money from a lot of different organizations, and I thought, well, I guess that's it, since all these good organizations are saying that. But then in 1988, I ran into a group that is with a movement basically in Britain, Canada, and Australia called social credit, and they said, no, gold and silver is just one commodity. and one product, money should be issued on the basis of the goods and services of the people. Even if there were no gold in the country, they could issue money based on what the goods and services of the people can produce. And of late, Ron Paul has made famous Austrian economics, and I've gotten to some of the craziest conversations I've ever been in talking to Austrian economics people, how if we arrested the Fed or shut them down tomorrow and we took over issuing money, how would Austrian economics issue money? And that's been some of the craziest conversations because they don't seem to have an answer. And by the way, Ludwig von Mises, who started the Austrian School of Economics over here, was actually financed by a Rothschild agent named something like Coudenrave. I can't remember his name. It's a complicated name from the 20s. But he actually had helped von Mises get over here with Warburg and Rothschild endorsement. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the views and the research of Mr. Michael Montagne, and I don't know totally what he's going to say, and I'll maybe break in with questions now and then. But we're going to listen to him, and then we'll open up the phones for questions later. And I hope that little introduction I gave, everybody's probably run into one or more of these theories on how money should be issued in a nation. So Al Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself, because you're going to be co-hosting with me tonight, and then we'll have Mike Montagne further introduce himself.
Right. This is Al Jordan. Fred asked me to step in this evening. He wanted me to look over the materials that Mike has developed over the past 40 years over the mathematically perfect economy. I think the best way to begin this conversation is for Mike to read or tell us what Thomas Jefferson said about what happens when a banking system takes over a government. And I think from there, I will interject after he's finished that with one basic question. And so with that, Mike, would you go ahead and tell us what Thomas Jefferson had to say about banking in America?
Certainly. Actually, I first heard this quote at a lecture that I was invited to attend in Valdez, Alaska in 1975 by a Canadian gentleman whose name was Jacques Walker, who spoke about colonial economy. And in the course of his lecture, he explained a development of economy which actually we can see that Benjamin Franklin at least was pointed toward it at an early stage of his life. He wrote an essay, Nature and Necessity of a Paper Currency, when he was 23. But anyway, in the course of this lecture, this man, Jacques Walker, had quoted Jefferson to have said, "If the American people ever allow the banks to issue their currency, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations which will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake homeless on the continent their fathers had conquered."
This is Al Jordan again. It seems as if the American banking system is doing just as well as the European banking system. There's 10 million foreclosures that have actually occurred in this country, most of which are illegal, and a similar amount in Europe. Given this kind of situation, what would be the principal tenets, the principal ideas of the mathematically perfect economy look like if we were to invoke it, say, tomorrow morning?
Well, it would be possible to invoke mathematically perfected economy by tomorrow morning. In fact, in 1979, I provided the Reagan campaign with a prescription for how to convert any deception of economy as we exist under today into mathematically perfected economy. In fact, in as little as a few minutes, by software, which would take over the obfuscated responsibilities of a banking system. So we can make this transformation immediately. I've had a relatively undisputed paper online for many years. I'm the original monetary reform presence of not only today's formal internet, but 10 years before the present formal internet and computer models that I had provided the Reagan administration in 1983 and 4, which actually projected then that this economy would fail even globally at approximately 2010 AD. So we have a number of issues to understand in order to hold out hope for a solution and to be able ourselves under the Republican form of government which exists across the world, we of course require to be capable of just self-government ourselves. In other words, we need to raise ourselves up to a stature which is capable of determining what is a monetary solution. So I don't know where to start. I generally start.
Maybe we should start with how money is created by the banking system and what has changed over the years from a currency backed by something like gold and silver to where we are today, and how this would be adjusted using the perfect economy, the mathematically perfect economy.
Well, effectively, the deficiencies of the gold or silver standard or precious metal monetary standard led directly to today's circumstances. And Franklin noted this actually in his paper, Nature and Necessity of a Paper Currency. In this paper, for instance, he observes that when the colonists restricted their circulation to gold and silver coin on hand, that they enjoyed relatively little prosperity compared to what they enjoyed once they began issuing paper currency. And he speculated that too much currency, paper currency, would be bad, and not enough would, be insufficient to sustain the prosperity they were enjoying. But that's about as much as he speculated on, the volumes of circulation which would be necessary to sustaining whatever prosperity we would desire to sustain somehow. The somehow is the matter that we have to get at. Anyway, the first thing for us to understand is that the present, and I'm going to go ahead and use a term that I've used for many years, obfuscation of the currency. The present obfuscation of the currency. What do I mean by obfuscation? Obfuscation is a term. I'm a software engineer. Obfuscation is a term that software engineering. It's a technology that we apply to usually to finished executables, which rearranges their order in ways which makes it difficult for somebody to reverse engineer a finished product. Obfuscation is to purposely confuse. So by obfuscation of the currency, I'm just referring at first loosely to an obfuscation of promissory obligations, which we need to explain later after we have a background to understand the importance of it. The first thing, and you described me earlier as a researcher. In truth, I wouldn't fit my work doesn't fit the mold of research in the usual sense of research, at least. That is, no matter how much we study monetary theory, there is no solution in the whole body of what we could study. What we call economics is nothing but a mere pseudoscience, which is wholly bereft of formal proof or theorem, which altogether should lead us to be extremely suspicious of it. But it's an obligation of every citizen then to construct